In a world where every currency bends to the will of a government, one form of money dared to stand outside the system entirely. It belonged to no nation, no central bank, and no political ideology. It was created not by a committee of economists or a council of world leaders, but by an anonymous mind who vanished the moment his invention took flight. Bitcoin emerged as something impossible. A currency with no master, no borders, and no permission required. And in a century defined by surveillance, collapse, and distrust, that made it more powerful than anyone expected. For generations, money was never truly ours. Each bill, each coin, each digital dollar was a product of authority controlled, tracked, and valued by institutions that rarely played by the same rules they demanded from the rest of the world. Governments could freeze it. Banks could deny access to it, and inflation could silently drain it. People believed this was just the way things had to be, until Bitcoin arrived, an outsider to every rule the financial world had written for hundreds of years. Bitcoin did something radical. It separated money from the state. No central bank could print more of it. No president could change its monetary policy. No institution could manipulate its supply for political gain. It existed as pure mathematics, secured not by soldiers or laws, but by millions of independent machines scattered across the planet. A monetary system not enforced by violence, but by consensus. Not directed by elites, but by code. Most currencies carry the identity of the nations that issue them. The US dollar represents American power. The yen reflects Japanese policy. The euro symbolizes European unity, but Bitcoin had no anthem, no government, no national pride behind it. It had no borders to defend and no allegiance to pledge. This made it both dangerous and liberating. Dangerous to the institutions accustomed to control, liberating to the individuals who had none. As global systems tightened their grip through surveillance, banking, digital tracking, and centralized databases, Bitcoin became the silent escape route. It offered an alternative financial world built outside the reach of traditional authority. A place where transactions were voluntary, not dictated. A place where rules were transparent, not written behind closed doors. A revolution without guns, without leaders, without villains, only code. This stateless currency was born for chaos. When nations faced hyperinflation, Bitcoin became a lifeline. When banks froze accounts during crises, Bitcoin remained open. When governments censored financial activity, Bitcoin continued running with indifference. It thrived in economic collapse, in political turmoil, and in the moments when old systems revealed their fragility. Every time a country's currency fell apart, Bitcoin became the symbol of a different future, one where no leader could simply decide to print away people's savings. The more governments struggled to maintain trust, the more Bitcoin absorbed it. Each scandal, each bailout, each manipulation of interest rates, and each erosion of purchasing power reminded the world that traditional money was never neutral. It served the needs of the powerful first. Bitcoin flipped the hierarchy. It empowered the individual over the institution. It allowed people, not governments, to hold absolute control over their own wealth. This shift wasn't loud. It didn't look like a revolution. It wasn't fought on battlefields. It took place quietly, in server rooms, in laptop screens, and in the minds of millions who realized something profound. Money didn't need a ruler to exist. Money didn't need permission to move. Money didn't need a flag to function. For the first time in human history, money had broken free. Borders could restrict people, but not Bitcoin. Laws could stop cash, but not cryptographic signatures. Governments could declare bans, but Bitcoin continued circulating through digital channels beyond their reach. It was unstoppable, not because it defied authority, but because it simply didn't recognize the existence of authority to begin with. It wasn't anti-government. It was beyond government. Every powerful institution that tried to kill it ended up proving why the world needed it. Every attempt to regulate it only made it more desirable. Every economic collapse made more people question the old system. Every generation becoming digital made Bitcoin feel more natural. What started as an experiment slowly evolved into a parallel financial universe. And yet, Bitcoin was more than technology. It was a mirror held up to the world. A reminder of how fragile the global financial system really was. A challenge to the long-held belief that money must be controlled by the few rather than shared by the many. A warning that trust in institutions was breaking, and a suggestion that something new could grow from the cracks. Governments feared it because it removed their control. Banks feared it because it eliminated their middleman role. Corporations feared it because it exposed the instability of fiat money. But individuals, especially those failed by the system, saw it as hope workers in countries suffering from inflation, families locked out of banking, activists targeted by authoritarian governments, ordinary people whose wealth had been drained by corrupt leaders. For them, Bitcoin wasn't speculation. It was survival. And so, in a world losing faith in its old financial structures, Bitcoin rose as a rebellion disguised as software, not to overthrow nations, but to make them less necessary. Not to destroy the financial system, but to give the world an alternative, not to create chaos, but to provide order where governments had failed to. Bitcoin didn't come to join the system. It came to challenge every assumption the system was built on. It didn't ask for permission. It didn't wait for approval. It simply existed open, neutral, borderless, unstoppable. In a century defined by uncertainty, Bitcoin became the one thing that didn't change its rules. A currency that answered to no nation, a system that obeyed no authority, a form of money for a world that no longer trusted those in power, a stateless currency in a lawless world.